A man in his late 30s, David Carter, walks through downtown Boston on a rainy October evening. He notices a young woman huddled in a doorway, trying to protect a folder of papers from the rain. Instead of walking past like everyone else, he offers her his umbrella. When she hesitantly accepts, he glimpses her portfolio of stunning architectural designs. The next day, he returns with a job offer at his construction company. She refuses, her eyes filled with suspicion. "I don't want your charity." No one could have imagined how this simple interaction would transform both their broken lives forever. One man rebuilding his life after devastating loss. One woman with extraordinary talent but nowhere to call home. Two souls from different worlds, both carrying invisible scars. David Carter's alarm clock rings at 5:30 each morning, though he's usually already awake, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks he's memorized over 3 years of sleepless nights. The bedroom still feels half empty, with Jennifer's side untouched, her pillow still bearing the faint scent of her lavender shampoo that he occasionally presses to his face when the loneliness becomes too much. He moves through his morning routine with quiet efficiency: shower, shave, dress in his standard uniform of worn jeans and a flannel shirt, topped with a jacket that bears his company logo. Carter Construction Building Community. Since 1978, the kitchen comes alive as he prepares breakfast and lunch for his 8-year-old daughter Emma. He writes a small note on a napkin. "Be brave today. Love, Dad." It's a ritual he started after Jennifer died, a way to be present even when he's not there. As he places the note in Emma's lunchbox, his wedding ring catches the morning light, and he unconsciously twists it around his finger, a habit formed in the years since the accident. "Daddy, can you do the special braid today?" Emma asks, padding into the kitchen in mismatched socks, clutching her favorite stuffed elephant. Her dark hair, so like her mother's, frames a face where Jennifer's eyes look back at him. "Of course, sweetheart," David replies, his large, calloused hands surprisingly gentle as they separate her hair into sections. He's watched countless online tutorials to learn this skill, determined that his daughter would not miss out on these small moments just because her mother was gone. His first attempts had been disastrous, but now he takes pride in the imperfect yet heartfelt results. Their modest home in South Boston isn't fancy, but it's filled with memories. Photographs line the walls: David and Jennifer on their wedding day, baby Emma coming home from the hospital, the three of them at the beach, building sandcastles. The most recent photos show only David and Emma, a visual timeline with a clear before and after. In the backyard, Jennifer's garden continues to bloom under David's careful attention. Each morning, he waters the plants while speaking softly to them, updating them on Emma's growth and achievements as if Jennifer might hear his words through the flowers she loved. The drive to Emma's school is filled with her chatter about classroom drama and her upcoming science project, while David listens attentively, asking questions that show he's truly engaged. He never checks his phone during these precious minutes. After losing Jennifer to a distracted driver who was texting, David has become acutely aware of how fragile these moments are. "Have a great day, Emma Bear," he says, using the nickname that makes her simultaneously smile and roll her eyes as she climbs out of the truck. He watches until she disappears through the school doors, before driving to the construction site. At work, David is respected for his fairness and integrity. His father's company had been small, but under David's leadership, it's grown modestly while maintaining its original values. He employs 27 people, including several who would struggle to find work elsewhere, a former inmate learning carpentry, a recovering addict who's now his best electrician, and a veteran with PTSD who's found peace in detailed finishing work. "Morning, boss," calls Marcus, his foreman, as David parks his truck at their current project, a community center in a struggling neighborhood. "The inspector's coming at 11. The subcontractors are running behind on the electrical." David nods, already mapping out solutions in his head. "Let's get everyone together for a quick meeting. We'll figure it out." This is where he thrives, solving problems, bringing order to chaos, fixing what's broken. If only he could do the same with his heart. During his lunch break, while others chat in groups or check their phones, David sits alone in his truck, sketching building designs in a worn notebook. Architecture had been Jennifer's profession, not his, but he'd always had an eye for it. They dreamed of one day designing their own home together, a dream now carefully preserved between the pages of his sketchbook. The evenings follow a similar pattern, picking up Emma, helping with homework, preparing dinner. His cooking skills have improved dramatically out of necessity. Bath time, and then reading together before bed. He makes an effort to maintain family traditions, like Friday movie nights, with popcorn, and Saturday morning pancakes in funny shapes. But once Emma is asleep, the silence of the house envelops him. Often, David sits on the porch swing that Jennifer had insisted they needed, staring at the stars and nursing a single beer. Sometimes, He speaks to her, asking for guidance, confessing his fears about raising Emma alone, admitting his loneliness. The neighbors have noticed his solitary figure but respect his space. They bring occasional casseroles and offer to watch Emma, understanding that grief doesn't follow a timetable. David has had opportunities to date again, gentle suggestions from friends, a few interested glances from single mothers at Emma's school. But the thought of letting someone new into their fragile world terrifies him. He's built walls around his heart, focusing entirely on Emma and work, convincing himself that it's enough. One particular evening, during a parent-teacher conference, Emma's teacher Miss Rodriguez shares something that catches David off guard. Emma told the class that her daddy helps people who are lost find their way, she says with a warm smile. She's very proud of you. The words stay with David for days, making him wonder if his daughter sees something in him that he's lost sight of, a capacity for connection beyond their small family unit. Perhaps by helping others, he might find his own way forward again. Sarah Mitchell had once inhabited corner offices with views of the Manhattan skyline. Now, she considers herself lucky to find a dry doorway during Boston's autumn downpours. 8 months of homelessness have taught her to appreciate small mercies: a public restroom with soap, a library with comfortable chairs, a cafe employee who occasionally slips her an extra muffin at closing time. Her daily routine is structured around survival and maintaining her dignity. She wakes before dawn in whatever shelter had space the night before, careful to be first in line for the showers. Her few possessions fit in a weatherproof backpack: 2 changes of clothes kept immaculately clean, a toothbrush and small toiletries, her portfolio of architectural designs, and a dog-eared copy of Jane Jacobs' The Death and Life of Great American Cities. Most mornings, Sarah walks to the public library when it opens, claiming a desk in the corner where she can work on her designs using free pencils and scrap paper. The librarians know her as the quiet woman who helps reshelve books and assists elderly patrons with computer questions, small ways she maintains her sense of contribution despite her circumstances. Before her world collapsed, Sarah had been rising fast at Whitmore Architectural Associates in New York. Her innovative sustainable designs had caught the attention of senior partners, and at 32, she'd been the youngest architect assigned to lead a major project, a luxury residential tower called the Summit. That's when she discovered the safety violations: corners cut on materials, falsified structural assessments, bribed inspectors. When she raised concerns internally, she was first ignored, then threatened. Her decision to report the violations to regulatory authorities cost her everything. Richard Hamilton, the powerful developer behind the Summit, used his connections to ensure she was fired, blacklisted, and buried in legal challenges that drained her savings. Former colleagues distanced themselves, afraid of similar retaliation. With her professional reputation destroyed and mounting legal bills, Sarah watched her carefully built life crumble. She sold her apartment and possessions, eventually making her way to Boston, far enough from New York to escape immediate recognition, but still a city with architectural opportunities if she could somehow clear her name. Despite everything, Sarah refuses to abandon her principles or her passion. Each day, she creates new designs, focusing on affordable housing with innovative sustainability features. Her portfolio, protected in a waterproof case, represents both her past achievements and her hope for redemption. She's learned to be invisible when necessary and fiercely independent always. Previous experiences with help that came with uncomfortable expectations have made her wary of charity. She's developed a protective shell, keeping people at a distance with her formal speech and guarded expressions. On this particular rainy evening, Sarah sits in a doorway, calculating how long she must wait before the shelter opens for the night. Her portfolio, usually stored safely in her backpack, is open on her lap as she makes adjustments to a community housing design using a pencil stub. When the rain suddenly intensifies, she frantically tries to protect her work, positioning her body to shield the papers. That's when the rain stops hitting her, though she can still hear it pounding the pavement. Looking up, she sees a navy blue umbrella, and the man holding it, mid-30s, with kind eyes that hold their own share of sadness, wearing a construction company jacket. "Looks like important work," David says, nodding toward her drawings. "Mind if I share this umbrella until the rain lets up?" His question carries no presumption, no pity, just a simple human connection. Sarah hesitates, her instinct to refuse battling with practical necessity. "Thank you," she finally says, her voice carrying traces of an education her current appearance doesn't suggest. David doesn't fill the silence with unnecessary chatter. Instead, he respectfully glances at her designs with genuine interest. "That's impressive structural integration. Are you an architect?" Sarah tenses, weighing how much to reveal. "I was," she finally admits. There's something in his eyes, recognition of talent, rather than circumstances, that momentarily breaks through her defenses. They discuss her design briefly, David asking intelligent questions that surprise her. When the rain subsides, he nods a goodbye without pressing for more information. The next day, he returns with a business card and an unexpected proposition. My company's working on a community center. We need someone with design expertise for some modification challenges. Would you be interested in consulting? Sarah immediately sees it as charity rather than opportunity. I don't want your pity, she says, handing back his card. It's not pity I'm offering, David replies. It's a job. I need your expertise, not your gratitude. The tension between pride and necessity plays across Sarah's face as she watches him walk away, leaving the business card on the ground beside her. Neither realizes yet how their paths have crossed before, indirectly. The corrupt project Sarah exposed was connected to a developer who once pressured David to use substandard materials. His refusal had cost his company a lucrative contract but preserved his father's legacy of integrity. They are kindred spirits in principle, though that connection remains hidden for now. A week passes before Sarah appears at the modest offices of Carter Construction. The receptionist's eyes widen slightly at her appearance, but Sarah holds herself with such dignity that the moment passes quickly. I'm here to see Mr. Carter, she states, her voice steady despite her racing heart. About the consulting position. David emerges from his office, surprise and pleasure briefly crossing his face before he schools his expression into professional neutrality. He leads her to a small conference room, where blueprints for the community center project are spread across the table. Before we discuss the position, Sarah says firmly, I need to establish boundaries. This is professional only. I don't want special treatment or personal questions. Just work. David nods, respecting her terms. The job pays $22 an hour. We need someone with architectural knowledge to help redesign these areas where we've encountered structural issues. Can you start today? The next hours are focused entirely on work. David introduces Sarah to his team without commentary on her circumstances, simply presenting her as a consulting architect. He assigns her a desk in the corner of the open office, providing basic supplies and access to the computer system. Sarah works with silent intensity, making notes and adjustments to the blueprints. She notices the family photos on David's desk but doesn't ask. During lunch, she eats a sandwich alone at her desk, while continuing to sketch ideas. David respects her desire for space, but leaves several architectural magazines on her desk, with post-it notes marking articles that might interest her. As days turn into weeks, small moments of connection begin to accumulate between them. One evening, Sarah stays late to finish revisions to a troublesome section of the design. When she finally looks up, she's surprised to find David still there, working in his office. He notices her glance and holds up a bag from a nearby Chinese restaurant. I ordered too much, he says casually. Would you like some? They eat in companionable silence, sharing food without expectation of conversation. When Sarah finally speaks, it's about the project, but the ice has begun to thaw. During a site visit the following week, a gust of wind catches a child's drawing that had been tucked into David's clipboard. Sarah instinctively chases it across the construction site, retrieving it from under a stack of lumber. David watches as she carefully smooths out the wrinkles in what is clearly Emma's artwork, a crayon drawing labeled "My Dad's Big Building." Thank you, he says when she returns it. My daughter would have been heartbroken to lose that. Sarah nods, offering the barest hint of a smile. She has talent with spatial relationships. The perspective is quite good for her age. It's the most personal comment she's made, and David treasures it like a rare gift. Another morning, David arrives unusually early to prepare for an important client meeting. He finds Sarah asleep at her desk, her jacket folded as a makeshift pillow. He recognizes the signs of someone without a proper place to rest but respects her privacy too much to mention it. Instead, he quietly retreats and returns an hour later, making enough noise to wake her naturally before entering. When she emerges from the restroom, freshened up but clearly embarrassed, he simply hands her a coffee and proceeds with their work discussion, as if nothing unusual had occurred. The presence of David's daughter creates another bridge between them. When a school professional development day coincides with a crucial project deadline, David reluctantly brings 8-year-old Emma to the office. He sets her up in the conference room with books and art supplies, checking on her frequently between meetings. During a particularly lengthy call, Emma wanders out and finds herself drawn to Sarah's desk, where detailed sketches of the community center take shape. Are you drawing my dad's building? Emma asks, peering at the papers. Sarah startles, then composes herself. Yes, I'm helping with some of the design elements. It looks really pretty, Emma says, studying the drawings with surprising attention. Can you teach me how to draw buildings? From across the office, David watches as Sarah hesitantly shows Emma how to sketch simple three-dimensional shapes. His daughter's natural enthusiasm slowly breaks through Sarah's reserve, and for the first time, he sees genuine animation in her face as she explains basic architectural concepts to the curious child. Over the following weeks, Emma becomes an unexpected connection point. She asks Sarah to help with a school project designing her dream house, and David observes their growing bond with a mixture of joy and concern. He recognizes the healing taking place in both of them but worries about his daughter becoming attached to someone who might disappear. As Thanksgiving approaches, office conversation turns to holiday plans. David overhears Sarah quietly deflecting questions about her own arrangements. That evening, he stops by her desk with an awkward invitation. "Emma and I always make way too much food for Thanksgiving," he says, trying to sound casual. "You'd be doing us a favor if you joined us. Otherwise, we'll be eating leftovers until Christmas." Sarah's immediate instinct is to decline, but before she can formulate a response, Emma appears with a handmade card featuring a crayon turkey, and the words, "Please come," in colorful letters. "I made pumpkin pie with Dad, and it might be terrible because he's not good at desserts," Emma confides, "but the mashed potatoes will be awesome." Looking at the earnest face of the child, and the carefully neutral expression of her father, Sarah feels something shift inside her, a crack in the wall she's built around herself. "Thank you," she says softly. "I'd be happy to join you." The Thanksgiving dinner itself becomes a turning point. Sarah arrives early, insisting on helping with preparations. The kitchen becomes a space of comfortable collaboration. David mashing potatoes while Sarah expertly carves the turkey, Emma setting the table with mismatched plates that she explains all have special stories. There's an unexpected ease to their interaction, a sense of rightness that surprises them all. During dinner, Emma's chatter fills any potential awkward silences, but increasingly, David and Sarah find themselves contributing, sharing small, safe pieces of themselves. When Sarah compliments a particular serving dish, David explains it was a wedding gift from his late wife's grandmother. The mention of Jennifer comes naturally, without the sharp pain that usually accompanies her name. He finds himself telling Sarah how Jennifer loved hosting Thanksgiving, how she insisted cranberry sauce should have orange zest, a tradition he continues. For her part, Sarah shares carefully edited stories from her architectural training, describing a professor who made students design buildings using only recycled materials. She mentions traveling to Barcelona to study Gaudi's work, her eyes lighting up as she describes the organic forms of Sagrada Familia. After dinner, all three work together to clean up, falling into an effortless rhythm. When Emma eventually falls asleep on the couch, David and Sarah sit at the kitchen table with cups of coffee, their conversation continuing in low voices. "She's an extraordinary child," Sarah says, watching Emma's peaceful face. "You've done an amazing job with her." "I'm just trying not to mess up too badly," David admits. "Every day, I worry I'm not enough. From what I can see, you're exactly what she needs." The simple validation, offered without agenda, means more to David than Sarah can possibly know. In this moment of connection, both feel a sense of possibility that has been absent from their lives for too long. As winter settles over Boston, Sarah becomes a more integral part of the Carter construction team. David entrusts her with increasing responsibility, genuinely valuing her input on projects. Her designs for the community center's interior spaces receive praise from clients and contractors alike. The office holiday party provides another milestone. When a colleague makes a dismissive comment about homeless people ruining the neighborhood, David responds with unexpected firmness. "Most people are one medical emergency or job loss away from losing everything," he says, his voice quiet but intense. "The difference between us and them often comes down to luck and support systems, not character." Sarah, overhearing from around the corner, feels something warm unfurl in her chest. David's words reflect a compassion that goes beyond their personal connection, a genuine belief in human dignity that aligns with her own values. 6 months into their working relationship, Carter Construction bids on a major neighborhood development project that would transform an abandoned industrial area into mixed-income housing with community spaces. Sarah pours herself into the proposal, creating innovative designs that maximize both sustainability and beauty within budget constraints. During the proposal meeting with the selection committee, Sarah freezes mid-presentation. Sitting at the end of the conference table is Richard Hamilton, the developer who destroyed her career. His eyes narrow slightly as he studies her, recognition slowly dawning. David notices her sudden tension but professionally continues the presentation, covering for her momentary lapse. Afterward, he finds her in the stairwell, her breathing rapid and shallow. "Sarah? What happened in there?" She shakes her head, unable to explain. "I need to go. I'm sorry." In the following days, Sarah becomes increasingly distant, working remotely when possible, and avoiding office gatherings. David respects her withdrawal, but doesn't understand its cause. When he arrives at the office, late one evening, and finds her packing her desk, their carefully constructed professional relationship finally cracks. "You're leaving without even giving notice?" he asks, hurt evident beneath his attempt at professionalism. Sarah looks up, her eyes filled with conflict. "It's better this way." Clean break. Better for whom? Not for the projects you've helped design. Not for Emma, who asks about you constantly. Not for he stops himself before saying me. The emotion in his voice breaks something loose in Sarah. Years of protecting herself, of carrying her burden alone, suddenly feel too heavy to bear. The words pour out her prestigious position at Whitmore Associates, discovering the safety violations in Hamilton's luxury development, her whistleblowing, and the subsequent destruction of her career and life. "Hamilton recognized me in that meeting," she explains, her voice raw. "It's only a matter of time before he uses his connections to damage your company's reputation. I won't let that happen. Not after everything you've done for me." David listens in stunned silence, not because of her past, but because of her present sacrifice. "So you're leaving to protect us? Without even giving me the chance to stand with you? You don't understand what these people are capable of," Sarah insists. "Everyone who stood by me in New York lost everything. I won't let that happen to you and Emma. Maybe I want the chance to make that choice myself," David responds, frustration evident. "Did you ever think of that? That maybe, just maybe, not everyone will abandon you when things get difficult?" Sarah's protective walls slam back into place. History suggests otherwise. "So that's it? You're just going to disappear? After becoming part of our lives, part of Emma's life?" "I came into your life as someone who needed help," Sarah says, her voice breaking slightly. "I'm leaving because I care too much to be the reason your life falls apart." David, equally stubborn, steps back. "If walking away is what you want, I won't stand in your way." Before Sarah leaves, Emma arrives at the office with the after-school program. Seeing Sarah's packed belongings, her face crumples in confusion and hurt. She runs to her room at home and returns with a drawing, the three of them standing in front of a house labeled home. "Please don't go," Emma whispers. But Sarah takes the drawing with trembling hands and walks out the door, tears streaming down her face once she's out of sight. The separation proves painful for everyone. David throws himself into work but struggles with Sarah's absence. The office feels emptier, projects lack the creative spark she brought, and most difficult of all, Emma regularly asks when Sarah is coming back. Sarah finds minimum wage work at a cafe, rents a tiny room in a shared apartment, and tries to convince herself she made the right choice. Yet she keeps David's business card and Emma's drawing, looking at them during her darkest moments. 3 months after their parting, David discovers that his company's bid for the neighborhood development was rejected in favor of Hamilton's proposal, despite their superior design. When he investigates, he learns Hamilton plans to use the same cost-cutting measures on safety that Sarah had exposed years earlier. Simultaneously, Sarah sees a newspaper article about the approved project and recognizes the dangerous flaws in Hamilton's plans. Concerned for the community's safety, she faces a moral dilemma: stay silent to protect herself or speak out again, risking everything she's rebuilt. The decision crystallizes when she overhears cafe customers discussing how excited they are about moving into the new development. Real people, families with children, would live in those potentially unsafe buildings. Her conscience won't allow her to remain silent. At a public hearing about the project, David prepares to voice concerns about the safety issues. To his shock, Sarah appears at the meeting, portfolio in hand. Their eyes meet across the crowded room, surprise, relief, and uncertainty passing between them. When Hamilton presents his plans, Sarah steps forward to challenge the design's safety. David immediately stands to support her claims, adding his professional expertise to her testimony. Together, they present a compelling case that cannot be ignored. Hamilton, recognizing Sarah, publicly accuses her of professional jealousy and attempts to discredit her. In a powerful moment, David defends her integrity and reveals documents showing Hamilton's history of safety violations. "The real question isn't why Miss Mitchell is opposing this project," David states firmly. "It's why Mr. Hamilton is so determined to silence her again." The community board votes to suspend approval pending investigation, dealing Hamilton a significant setback. Outside the hearing, in the cold Boston evening, David and Sarah finally have their moment of truth. "Why did you come today?" Sarah asks. "You could have stayed out of it. Protected your company." "For the same reason you did," David answers simply. "Because it was right." After a pause, he continues more softly. "And because I've missed you. Emma's missed you. Our lives are better with you in them." The admission costs him, breaking through years of protective walls. I was afraid to fight for you because I've lost everyone I've ever loved. It was easier to let you walk away than face that fear again. Sarah's own defenses crumble as she confesses, I left because I couldn't bear to watch you suffer because of me. The last person who stood up for me lost everything. David takes her hand, his calloused fingers gentle against her skin. Some things are worth the risk. In the weeks that follow, an investigation validates Sarah's original claims about Hamilton's practices. Former colleagues, emboldened by her courage, come forward with supporting evidence. Her professional reputation begins to recover, culminating in an offer from a prestigious international firm in Paris, her long-ago dream job. Meanwhile, David's company is awarded the community project, with Sarah's innovative design as its centerpiece. Their professional partnership flourishes, creating sustainable, beautiful spaces that honor both function and human dignity. Despite her career redemption, Sarah faces a decision: accept the prestigious position abroad or stay in Boston. The Paris offer represents everything she once wanted: recognition, status, and a fresh start far from the shadows of her past. During a celebration dinner at David's home, Sarah watches him helping Emma with homework, their heads bent together over a math problem, their matching expressions of concentration, the easy affection between them. She realizes what she truly wants can't be found in professional success alone. When she tells David about the Paris offer, he tries to be supportive despite his pain. You deserve this, he says. It's everything you worked for. Sarah studies his face, seeing the conflict beneath his words. What if what I worked for isn't what I want anymore? She surprises both David and herself by declining the Paris position. I spent years fighting to reclaim what I lost, she explains. Now I realize I've found something more valuable here. Instead, she proposes a new path, starting a small architectural firm with David that specializes in community-centered projects and affordable housing. We could build something that matters, together. David's response is simple but profound. I've been rebuilding houses for years. Maybe it's time to rebuild a life too. Their relationship evolves naturally from respect to friendship to love. There's no grand romantic gesture, just a quiet moment on David's porch swing, watching the stars, when he finally removes his wedding ring and places it in a small memorial box, alongside Jennifer's photo. Jennifer would have liked you, he tells Sarah. She always said the heart expands to make room for more love. It doesn't replace what was there before. Sarah meets this vulnerable moment with her own. For years, I thought losing my career was the worst thing that could happen. Now I realize it brought me here to you and Emma. Together, they establish a program offering apprenticeships in architecture and construction to people experiencing homelessness. Their first community project includes transitional housing with dignity and beauty built into its design. Emma proudly tells her friends, "My dad and Sarah help people build homes, but they also help them build lives." 1 year later, David, Sarah, and Emma stand in front of a newly completed community center. Sarah notices a young woman studying the building with interest, portfolio clutched to her chest, a mirror of herself from the past. Without hesitation, Sarah approaches her. "Do you have a moment? We could use someone with a fresh perspective." David watches with a smile, the cycle of giving second chances continuing. The final image shows the three walking home together, Emma between them holding both their hands, while behind them, the community center's lights illuminate the gathering dusk, a beacon of hope for others still finding their way. True connection isn't built on perfect circumstances, but on the courage to see beyond someone's current chapter. When we dare to trust again after heartbreak, we don't just change one life, we create ripples that transform entire communities. If this story reminded you that kindness and love still exist in our world, share it with someone who needs that reminder today.